Hey, it's your girl, Constance Carter. How are you? Same Constance, different hair, representing my Catalyst Real Estate. But I wanted to talk to you today about something that, I think my team's probably going to get tired of me talking about this, but I'm always talking about this. Um, and that's just really around what happens when you die. Um, I've had so many deaths around me over the last couple of weeks, man. My granny just passed away last week, and Glenda's father-in-law passed away last week, and I just really have been teaching my agents and just coaching them and training them about what we do at Catalyst in terms of being holistic and really talk about legacy creation. It's not just about selling you a house. It's really about helping you to create your legacy. And one of the things that is very true, I'm gonna ignore that. One of the things that's very true is that if your affairs are not in order, your kids are going to hate each other when you die. Let me repeat that. If you don't have your affairs in order, your kids are going to hate each other when you die. The reason why I say this is because my mama told me a long time ago. She told me this a long time ago. Death and money brings out the absolute worst in people. It brings out the worst in people. So you start to see people doing things that you had never anticipated. You start to see a different side of people when death comes and your affairs are not in order. And again, this is something that I really try to drill into my agents at Catalyst, is really helping people to establish their legacy or asset protection. And I hope this is still going. One of the things I teach at Catalyst is really helping people to for their asset protection. I remember when my father-in-law was dying, I told my mother-in-law, if you hate your no, I said, if you want your kids to hate each other, the thing that you should not do is protect your assets, is get a living trust. So important. We had a client a few years ago. It was a young couple, bought a house, and California is a community property state, right? So the husband worked, wife didn't work, and they bought a little house, and it was nice. And one day the husband was on his way to work, worked in Sacramento, and he got in a car accident and died. He was 38 years old. Died just a few months later after he bought the house. And so the wife, even though it's a community property state, California is, we're thinking, oh, she's entitled to the property. And so when she went a few months later to go and try to sell the house, because it was not set up properly, the judge said no, it had to end up going into probate, because the judge said, well, half is yours and half is your children. Our children were like toddlers and babies. They said the half is yours and half belongs to the kids, and I have to look out for the best interest of the kids. And so, no, you do not have permission to sell this house. Wait a minute. I know what's best for my kids. I know I have to pay this mortgage. How come the judge gets to decide this? Well, because it was not set up in a living trust. And that's why a living trust is so important. Having your insurance is so important. If you can't afford insurance, you could just get, a little $10,000 burial insurance, all of these things. And not only have it, but let people know where it is and how to access it. Because there's nothing worse than when people pass away and they don't know what's going on. Or you start, you have something, even if you have a will. How many of you guys have wills? Even if you have a will can be contested. Did you know that? A will can be contested. So if, say, you have a will and you say, okay, I want my kids to split up my house in this way, and this person's going to get 25%, this person's going to get 30%, this person, whatever, or I'm splitting it up equally amongst all my children. Say you have a cousin in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that don't know nothing, ain't seen nothing, ain't been around you, and decides, no, my uncle told me that I could have a part of this house, even though the uncle didn't. Well, it will end up going into probate, because there's a saying that attorneys have that if you have a will, it will be contested. But if you have a living trust, it cannot be contested. And so what I did for my parents is I made sure that we have our trusts, our living trust set up. I have a living trust. My parents have a living trust. This is something that we did on our own. But it's so important Because when people die and your affairs aren't in order, it's total and complete chaos. And what I've seen end up happening is it fractures their families for the rest of their lives. Brothers and sisters fighting, they don't talk anymore, they're not close anymore. Families have just been torn apart because of death and because of money. Somebody thinks they're more entitled to have things than another person. If it's not spelled out in a living trust, I don't care if you don't even have property, you should have something. You need to have a living trust in writing. You could also spell out your medical directives. What is it that you want? I know when I did my mom's living trust, and in our trust documents, it had medical directives, it had a DNR and all this stuff. And my mom was like, hold on, wait a minute. You're going to have to give me at least a month before you pull the plug on me. That's what Mama said. Don't do that DNR stuff with me. There still might be a chance. But you need to have all of those things laid out, because your next of kin need to know what your wishes are. But as equally as important, your kids need to have everything straightened out. And if I just can't stress this enough, there's so many of us that are homeowners, but we do not have our affairs in order. We do not have it. If you have a home, you need to have a living trust. And if you don't have a living trust, your home will go into probate. What happens when it goes into probate? It's costly and it's time consuming. And so you have to depend on a judge to tell you what needs to happen with the house. And it's going to cost you so many thousands of dollars per $100,000 of that house. I forget what the exact amount is, but you will have to pay for that. Okay. So you can go to 299trust.com. This is what I did. I've got our living trust on 299trust.com. I'm going to put it in my comments box, 299trust.com. And you can get your living trust set up for $299, 299trust.com. But I want to say, when I moved to the neighborhood that I live in now, and mind you, I was 35 when I moved over there. And, I'm being nosy, kind of seeing who lives there. Everybody in my neighborhood had a living trust. That's when I first was like, oh, well, what's this about? Because, I had been doing real estate, maybe 10 years, 9 or 10 years, and I didn't really understand what a living trust was. I'll admit it. I never had one. And it wasn't until I moved to my neighborhood, I was like, why do all these people have living trusts? Because they have assets. But when you have a house, you need to make sure that your directives are set up on how you want things. Because if you don't, you are ruining the relationship of your children and possibly your grandchildren. If they have to come in there and determine what happens with your money, that is the worst thing that you can do for your kids. Your kids may end up hating each other. And even with mine, I always say, with me, my brother, and my sister, with my mom stuff, I have 2 brothers and a sister. And I always say, there's a 99.9% chance that if something should happen to my parents, we good. Because just of who we are, right? I believe that, but then there's that 0.1% chance that somebody could get to acting a fool. Hopefully it ain't gonna be me. But there is a small chance that could happen. But so you don't want to leave any chances. A trust cannot be contested if you have it established right. And these are things that I always talk about with my parents and with my siblings. We always talk about it. And I always talk about it with my agents. So one of the things that you need to do when you purchase a house, go ahead and get that living trust set up, because we don't know what can happen. We don't know what tomorrow may bring. And we don't want to put that extra burden on our families in the event that something happens. Make sure we're not doing GoFundMes. Make sure, we have our life insurance, whether it's a term life policy, if it's just going to be burial. I think Chris Owens does a burial insurance, whatever it is. Chris Owens, if you're on here, shout out to you. You can get a burial insurance that's just going to cover like your funeral expenses and your burial expenses. But have something in place, because you don't want to leave people out here trying to figure it out because you didn't take care of your business. So if you want to keep your family together, if you want your kids to not hate each other for the rest of their lives, because I've seen it happen. I've been involved in transactions where I've had grown people as old as my mama and my daddy fighting each other for the assets that their parents didn't take care of correctly, and hating each other, and their relationships are forever fractured as a result of it. So if you don't want that, If you want your kids to be taken care of long after you're gone, get your affairs in order. Whatever you do, get your affairs in order. Do not leave your family there to figure things out. Write down everything that you have. And I always teach this, in a lot of my trainings as well. Always write down just whatever it is. It could be a notepad or whatever. Here's my bank accounts. You put it in the safe. Here's my insurances. Here's everything that you have. Here's where my living trust is. Here's where the will is. Here, everything that they need to know about your affairs, have it in a safe place, maybe in a safe, so that if something happens to you, they can access it very easily. Because they're already going through the worst time of their life with the passing of you or the passing of your mama. This is to your mom and your dad and everybody else as well. I was just talking to a friend last week, and her mom is in the middle of transitioning. And we had to, I gave her some advice on getting things together as quickly as possible, so when that happens, which is happening right now, that she already has everything together. And then there's no question about what has to happen next. But don't wait until the last minute, because everybody may not have that chance. Get it done as soon as possible, if you can. Go to 299trust.com. I'm telling you, they got some good trust documentation. Go to that and get it set up. $299 is not a huge investment. I've had attorneys at minimum charge $1,500 for a living trust. On average, they charge anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for living trust. So if you can get a living trust for $299, that's the best investment that you can have. And that's the biggest gift that you can give to your family. So get it done right away. I urge you to get your living trust taken care of right away, because you do not want your family to be fighting when it's all said and done, trying to figure it out because you didn't take care of your business. Okay? So that's not all. Thank you guys. A lot of people joining me today. Thank you guys for joining me. I just wanted to give you that, because I don't want to see you guys going through it. And I definitely don't want to see anybody on my timeline doing a GoFundMe, trying to raise any funds for somebody that's, well over 18 or 20 or 25 to get themselves buried. And then also, for parents, take care of your kids too. Put your kids on your life insurance in the event. We hope for the best, but always make sure that we're preparing for the worst. All right? Take care and God bless. Peace.